Let's do some brakes. Chalk the front wheels. Jack up the rear wheels. Make sure that you have jack stands underneath, or check with your insurance agent about your beneficiary policy. This side is actually okay. It's this passenger side which is not okay. And we're going to show you that in a little bit. There are a couple of ways that a rotor can warp. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but right down here, right here at about the 4 o'clock level, you can see that there's a little brake pad material. So there's two ways that and there's a little bit over here too. Two ways that a rotor can warp. Number one is the rotor itself can potato chip. And so as the rotor is turning, it's moving backwards and forwards against the caliper. But another way that a rotor can warp is, it looks like there's a little bit up here, is the brake pad material can get hot. And like perfectly here, it'll leave some extra friction material on the disc. So it's not that the metal is warped, it's that the surface is no longer flush. On this one, however, I'm kind of wondering if it's the top hat here, because this side has to be adjusted. The parking brake shoes have to be adjusted a little bit looser, and this side just does not turn quite as easily as the other side. Now, I'm going to replace the disc and the brake pads. However, my brake shoes, my parking brake shoes, are thick enough and in good enough condition that I don't see a reason to replace them. However, I need them to be able to burnish or break into the new disc. And since these already have radial marks from the previous disc, I think what I'm going to do is use a little Scotch-Brite, and I'm going to make some back and forth scratches on it. Not deep. I'm not going to take off, too much material, but I want it to have an irregular pattern so that it'll mate up with the new disc. Alright, so I've just scratched up the surface a little bit, enough to get the streaks out of it. I think that's going to be enough. The rotors that I bought are zinc plated, and I think the zinc plating on the inside is going to be enough to help to be rough enough to seat these new pads. Down is loose. Right, down is loose, yeah, and up is tight. How to tell if your brake caliper is sticking. These are the brake pads that came off. They're about maybe 60% used, so 40% left or so. Rear pads are pretty thin anyway. But notice that they're pretty even. If the brake caliper was sticking, one pad would be super thin and the other pad would be very thick. So I don't think it has anything to do with my caliper. These are the Bosch Quiet-Cast rotors, zinc covered rotors. And notice that I have a couple of lug nuts on here so that I can align it when I put the brake caliper and the pad bracket back on. Alright, so I got the caliper back on, but I have not pushed on the brake pedal yet. So this is how it should kind of feel like that. It shouldn't get tight and then loose and then tight and then loose like the other one was. Let me go ahead and tighten up the parking brake. So it should be down, yeah. Click, 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 until the brake locks. I had the wrong hole. So it's up until the brake locks, and then So it's up, 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 and then down until it rotates freely. So why is it that I'm so concerned about the parking brakes? I don't know if you can see it in here. Where's my light? But there's a little spring in there. I don't know how you can see that. I can barely see it. And it was rubbing on this hub. Click, click, click. I don't know why it doesn't fit correctly. Nothing. It came stock that way. It came stock with a click. Anyway, so what I did is I had to put, I don't know if you can see this, but I put some shims on the back of the nail there in order to bring it back. And it was actually when I was messing with that that I checked the brakes, and I never actually checked the other side. The other side, the spring is fine, but it was the disc that was binding up. So one final thing is changing the brakes is the easy part. How do you burnish the brakes or break in the brakes? What you want to do is to lay a very thin layer of brake pad material into the disc itself. If you're really easy on the brakes, like tap, 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 I'm pretty easy on the brakes for the most part, it's not going to burnish. It needs to get kind of hot. Not really hot, but a little hot. So what I've been doing is you find a road where there's nobody on there, right, that there's no traffic. You go from, I think it's 20 or 25 miles per hour just to rolling, not stopped, but to rolling. Then you let off, go like, I don't know, a mile or so, and then 20 to almost stopped rolling, right? Not stopped, but rolling. And then you let the brakes cool off a little bit. Then it's 50 miles to 30 miles, right? 55 miles. You brake down to 30 miles and then let off the brake and let it cool for just a little while. Then 50 miles to 30, right? And then let off. Now, the whole point of that is that after you've done that, the brakes are going to be hot. And so you're going to have to drive for maybe, 5-10 minutes after that to let the brakes cool off. Now, on a bunch of YouTube videos, I've seen people change all 4 brakes all at the same time, brand new. The thing is that the fronts are the primary and the rears are the secondary, except on apparently the Jeep Wrangler, where the rears have more proportion than the fronts, and the rear brakes tend to wear out faster. My parents have a Jeep Wrangler Unlimited that seems to do that. Anyway, so I don't want to change the fronts because I want the fronts to have good friction and I want the rears to not have too much heat. That is right. Anyway, so you get the idea. So burnish the brakes, then drive around for a little bit to cool off the brakes, come home, park it, and then don't drive it, until it cools down, and maybe a few hours. Anyway, so that's it. I'm almost done. I don't know if I'll get to burnish the brakes today, but we are almost finished putting them back together again. I used these on a 2016 4Runner that I had, and the brakes warped within the first year. And so I tried a set of these and I really like them. And so I could get the Toyota ones just a little bit cheaper, but I really wanted the zinc plated. So as a Bosch Quiet-Cast. Alright. Pump the brake so that your neighbor doesn't have to. And then what is the... Yeah, parking brake. Feels good. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 5, it's pretty snug. 6, 7. Okay. So all we have to do is burnish them now.